Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Scream, just the first one, and then later on down the track we'll talk about the others, but I've chosen this one today. Just a little disclaimer to begin with: if you don't like me, if you don't like this review, that's fine. We don't have to agree. This is my opinion, and pretty much I don't care. So yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So I chose Scream because primarily I watched this movie when I was very young. I was very scared. I had to sleep with the light on for a long time. I think I was about 6 when I watched it for the first time, so pretty young. I didn't watch this movie again until I was about 20 years old, so pretty big gap. When I watched it again, I realised that I'd missed out all this time on a movie that was really going to awaken my love of horror. I was pretty happy when I watched it again, and was just the little things that I missed, obviously, after not watching it for a really long time. And I've watched it countless times since, and love it. So let's get into it. So we are going to talk about it in 3 different stages. I'm going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end. I'll also talk about the characters within my review. So first of all, let's talk about the opening scene. So the opening scene is at the house of Casey. She is at home alone currently and is waiting for her boyfriend to join her. She has a phone call, the phone rings, and it's Ghostface. So Ghostface is asking all these questions. What's she doing? What's your favourite scary movie? Do you have a boyfriend? And all this sort of stuff. And then gradually it gets more and more intense, more and more sort of intrusive, and eventually it gets full on, and he asks her to turn on the porch light. So she turns on the porch light, and there's her boyfriend, Steve. So Steve is on there strapped to a chair, and Ghostface is asking her all these questions, and then she gets it wrong. So Ghostface guts Steve right in front of her, and it's a interesting scene because I think you anticipate something bad is going to happen, but when you see someone getting gutted, it's like, oh, okay. So after that, Casey sort of is obviously horrified, and then that's where the big sequence with her and Ghostface happens. She's sort of running around, and it's her versus Ghostface, chasing her around the house. Things are thrown through the window. She's gone outside. She's trying to get away, and then Ghostface eventually catches up with her and grabs her and stabs her. She's still got the phone in her hand, mind you, so she's never actually let the phone go. While she's outside and all this is happening, her parents come home. Her parents sort of obviously just don't know what's going on, so they walk in and they're like, oh, something's going on here, and they see the popcorn's caught on fire on the stove, and then there's the door broken, and they're trying to find Casey. They don't know where she is. They pick up the phone. Mum can hear Casey on the phone and talking to her, and she's trying to keep going and can't get her, so they're about to head off down to the neighbour's house when they walk out the front door and see Casey hanging from a tree, gutted as well. And that is just disgusting, gruesome, horrifying. Oh, yuck, it's just disgusting. But that scene sets the premise for the whole movie, and it's really important that scene was the way that it was. Okay, so from there, you go to the school, and everybody's finding out about what happened, because obviously it's their classmates, and that's where we get introduced to our main characters. So our main characters are Sydney Prescott, Billy Loomis, Stu, Randy, Tatum, Dewey, and Gail Weathers. So Dewey and Gail come into a bit later, so let's talk about the other characters first. So that's where they all find out about their classmates. They're sitting, at the front of the school, kind of friend style on the fountain, talking about what's happened. So our main character is Sydney Prescott, played by the lovely Neve Campbell, and her boyfriend is Billy Loomis, played by Skeet Ulrich. So they are a high school couple. Unfortunately, Sydney's mum had been raped and murdered the year before, so she is obviously still coping with that and still grieving and going through that process. So more and more people dying around her is really impacting her, but she's very strong throughout the movie. Billy Loomis is your bad boy. He is a gorgeous bad boy. We all love a bad boy, I'm sure. There's also, apologies for saying then we have Randy, who's the nerdy friend who wants the girl, he can't get the girl, and is just, you know, there realistically is kind of like the fifth wheel of the group. Then we have Stu. So Stu is Billy's best friend. And then we have Tatum, who is Sydney's best friend. So they're all talking and all these things are happening. More and more people are dying, you know, slowly but surely, more gruesome, horrible ways. Eventually, you're sort of going through, the principal gets killed and other classmates get killed, and Ghostface is stalking Sydney. When she goes home one night and she's waiting for Tatum to pick her up, and Ghostface gets her at home to kill her, and she's in her room, and then Billy shows up and it's all timed perfectly, so she blames Billy because she doesn't know what's going on, and he ends up getting put into jail. So it gets a bit intense there, where he sort of, I guess that's made him angrier because he's been put in jail, but then they couldn't prove that it was him, so therefore he got let out. That's where sort of, and then she runs into him at the school and he just doesn't get how she's feeling the way that she's feeling. So they go through all of that, and then eventually we sort of go through a bit more, and then they get a curfew put on the curfew day. The principal gets killed, so just keep that in mind for a minute, and we'll come back to the principal's death shortly. Next, Stu has decided to have a party, even though they've been given a curfew. Nobody cares, as long as they're all together, they're happy. So off we go. Tatum and Sydney go to the store, get some chips and things, and they go to Stu's house. So everyone's there drinking, having a good time. Dewey's dropped them off, so he pops in and just makes sure everything's okay. Gail Weathers. So let's just, before I go to the end of the movie, I'm just going to step back in and talk about Gail. So Gail covered Sydney's mum's death as a reporter, and she believes that Sydney pinned the wrong person for her mother's murder. So she sort of follows Sydney throughout the movie, and Sydney punches her and they don't get along and they just dislike each other because of what happened with Sydney's mum, Maureen. So as you can imagine, Gail wants to be in on everything that's going on. She wants to know what's going on with this murder. So she ends up at this house party as well. So her and Dewey end up at this house party along with all the kids, and you know, they're all drinking and watching movies and having a good time. So Dewey's outside with Gail, and they've decided to go for a walk just to have a look around and, you know, see what's happening, to make sure everything's okay around the house, as you do, because, you know, there's a killer on the loose. So what happens next is Tatum goes to get more beer out of the garage. So as she's in the garage, the door shuts and the killer's in the garage with her. She sort of laughs it off as a joke and doesn't quite take it seriously, and then she realizes and she tries to escape through the garage door and is eventually killed. Garage goes up, comes down, and she gets killed. So that's, you know, Sydney's lost her best friend now, so it's slowly getting more and more people in Sydney's life that are disappearing. The police also think it might be Sydney's dad who's the murderer, so it's become this whole full circle thing where Sydney doesn't know who to trust and who to believe. After the whole big issue with Billy, Sydney runs into him at the party, of course, Stu being his best friend. So her and Billy go upstairs to have a talk, and then eventually they have sex. Hold that for a minute. So Gail and Dewey are outside just walking along, etc. And why this is all happening, Gail had previously, when she went in the house with Dewey, Gail had put a camera in the house. So her cameraman is in the van watching the footage, and once, after a bit, he also gets killed by Ghostface as well. So slowly people are getting killed at this party. A few people had left the party. There's only a handful left when they get a phone call to say that the principal has been killed. So, and hanging from a goalpost. So they've all decided, let's go see the principal dead hanging off a goalpost, you know, because that's what we all want to do. So off they go, and that's where the movie really comes into fruition. So Ghostface reappears and stabs Billy. And then it becomes the whole chase scene, downstairs, upstairs, all these things are happening, and eventually they get to the scene where Sydney realizes it's Stu and Billy that are the killers. Billy is the leader as such, and Stu is like his little sidekick. I love, this is one of my favourite scenes because it's a scene where they're sort of trying to injure each other to frame Sydney's dad for all the murders, and it just doesn't really work for them. They didn't plan it very well, and it's quite funny. I find it quite funny. I also think back to a scary movie where they do the same scene, and I find that really funny. So I think sometimes I think of that and it just takes out the scary part of it, I guess. So Sydney's dad's been brought back into it. They had kidnapped him and tied him up and hid him away, so nobody knew where he was. While that's all happening, Gail and Dewey are walking down the road when all the cars speed past to go visit, see the principal hanging from the goalpost, and they get knocked down laying on the grass. They find Neil Prescott's car and have a look, and because he's questionable as if he's the killer, Dewey tries to radio in, and all this stuff happens, and they go, oh my goodness, okay. So then they run back down to the house while all this stuff's happening, and then they come in when Sydney's sort of running around the house, and all this chaos, and Randy's there, and everyone's stabbing and shooting at each other, and eventually Stu dies from his wounds that Billy gave him, and then he dies from other wounds as well, and then eventually it becomes this showdown for Billy with Sydney and Gail, and Dewey's been injured, so he's out. So Gail ends up shooting Billy, and then he gets back up and they shoot him again, and he's dead. And it sort of ends with Billy dying, and the police come and ambulance come, and Gail, they pick up Gail's camera and she starts shooting and start talking, and Sydney's off to the hospital, and it ends pretty gruesomely, but it ended how it should have ended. If it ended in any other way, it just wouldn't be as good. So I'm really happy with what happened there. So that's the end of my review in a sense. That's sort of an overview. I really enjoy this movie. It's a really good movie to start your horror journey on. I couldn't think of another movie that would be good. This one sort of, and you get lessons from this one. It teaches you, you know, the people shouldn't have sex, and people shouldn't go upstairs, and people shouldn't say, you know, I'll be right back, because they're the rules. You know, people generally die when they do those things. So it really teaches you about those rules, and you learn to look for those little things in other movies, and it's just amazing. Like, you learn so much from these movies. I give Scream 4 out of 5 scary ghost masks, because it's just, as I said before, it's an amazing movie and great one to start on. You won't be disappointed, and people just associate well with the teenagers in the movie and what they're going through and things like that. So I'll leave that at that. I just want to say a huge thank you for listening, watching. I know it's not very exciting, but I'm hopefully it does pique someone's interest. I also wanted to give you a little bit of a clue about my next video. Let's just say I'm going to be talking about my dream guy. So thanks a lot, and we'll talk soon. See you later.